Obviously, one of the things you did mention briefly before was the tire industry project. And obviously the TIP has its own roadmap initiative. So tell us a little bit about how this is sort of working and how it will ensure the implementation of effective sustainable development goals.
This is a sector project housed within the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, WBCSD for short. TIP was founded in 2005. It's comprised of 11 leading tire manufacturing companies. It's a global, voluntary, CEO-led initiative, and it represents nearly 2/3 of the world's tire manufacturing capacity. And the goal of TIP is to proactively identify and address the potential human health and environmental impacts associated with the life cycle impacts of tires, with the ultimate goal is to create a more sustainable future. And certainly, if you went to the World Business Council for Sustainable Development website, you would look under sector projects, and there's a whole section dedicated to TIP. So again, for those who are interested in digging in more, that's a great place to go. So more to your point about the Sustainable Development Roadmap. So members of TIP announced in May of this year that they launched a roadmap to accelerate the whole of the tire value chain impact on the Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs for short. These SDGs were adopted by the United Nations in 2015. There's 17 of them, and they are integrated, and they recognize that development must balance those three legs of the three-legged stool of social, environmental, and economic impacts. So the announcement in May by TIP was a culmination of many months of work to sort of develop what are the pathways that would maximize positive impacts and minimize negative impacts in the supply chain, in member operations, in the products and services that are delivered. And a series of actions were developed towards 8 of the SDGs, which were deemed to be priorities. And the 2 that have particularly been highlighted are related to Sustainable Development Goal number 8, which is decent work and economic growth, and number 12, which is responsible consumption and production. So it was an exciting launch. I did cover it in one of my blogs already posted to Autosphere.ca. So it's ambitious, it's exciting. It will take everyone in the tire value chain and frankly beyond to work towards meeting those 8 sustainable development goals. The TIP is committed to report out, and TRAC is excited to support the work there. So again, more hopefully great news to follow in the months and years ahead.
Great. Well, we look forward to hearing more about that, Carol. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Sort of shifting gears a little bit and obviously moving to something that's obviously very Canadian at its heart, ice traction and winter. What's the current situation regarding this in the tire industry in Canada, and what are some of the next steps?
Of course. And of course, when you mention ice track, I can't help but think of Ice Ice Baby saying vanilla ice. But in any event, with respect to ice traction, well, work has been underway for the last few years to develop a common model for testing tire performance on ice. So an ISO standard, International Standards Organization, is in the final stages of development of a standard, with publication of that standard expected before the end of this year. And then the tire industry is also working on a common pictogram or schematic that will help identify tires that meet that minimum threshold, as will be defined in this new ISO standard. So once the work is complete, consumers will have a new performance metric for ice traction, in addition to the 3 Peak Mountain snowflake symbol for snow traction. So again, lots of great work in progress, and more good news to come in the months ahead.
Obviously, another subject sort of specifically focusing on tire technology itself, obviously, is rolling resistance. And I think as sort of more electric vehicles come on stream, more hybrids, I mean, that's the current plan anyway. We'd like to see a focus on sort of reducing rolling resistance on tires. So just kind of wanted to get from you, how are things evolving in this area, and what do you think the likely impact is going to be as we see more sort of electrified vehicles sort of hitting the roads?
Right. Again, for the viewers, rolling efficiency is the amount of energy required to maintain a tire's rotational movement. And it can be, it's one of several factors that affect a vehicle's fuel economy. And I think, as we all know, in this broad discussion around climate change, better fuel economy means lower greenhouse gas emissions, GHGs. And globally, everyone is concerned about climate change and the importance of reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So this is a critical priority, not just for the tire industry, but for everyone. So tire producers are working to reduce vehicle emissions throughout a tire's useful life by designing tires with high rolling efficiency. Electric vehicles, as viewers might know, they require special tires for a couple of reasons. The tires have to handle more weight compared to internal combustion vehicles, and they have to deliver more torque to the road when moving away from a stop. So needless to say, I think all major tire companies are seized with tires for EVs and are actively engaged in considering the unique requirements for low rolling resistance tires, both for EVs and, of course, the traditional internal combustion engine vehicles.
Okay. One thing that's sort of been developing, and now I think is actually passed yet, but certainly in Europe, there's been this sort of the new European tire labeling law. What do you think the significance is for that, for the tire industry overall? Because sometimes what happens in Europe tends to sort of happen here ultimately as well, right?
For sure. We're in a global economy, so we're well apprised of what's happening in other parts of the world. My understanding is that the tire label in the EU has actually been renewed this year. So new labels required for tires manufactured after April of this year. And I think the content of the label has been changed as well as how it's been displayed. But the goal of that EU tire label is to provide choice for consumers so they can decide, which tires are eco-friendlier, which ones are more fuel efficient, etc. So here at home in Canada, a consultation with the broad tire industry on tire labeling recently concluded, and the Canadian government is considering all options for some type of a consumer information program that may include efficiency and wet grip, amongst other performance metrics. So we're not as far along as the EU, but obviously the government is considering some type of consumer information program. What it will actually look like yet, we don't know. Again, sounds like a bit of a broken record, but lots of good things happening, but obviously more news to follow. So happy to keep you and the viewers apprised.
Great. And on a final note, Carol, is there anything else you'd like to mention regarding the state of the tire industry overall, perhaps as it relates to Canada or even sort of the wider world?
Well, I think there's no more exciting time to be in the tire industry. I think I've shared with many folks that my perceptions of this industry have changed hugely since I joined it in October of last year. For me, as I'm sure the average consumer, a tire is a round black product that connects the car to the road surface. But of course, now I'm that much more informed and impressed with the high degree of engineering and technology, the commitment to sustainability and innovation, and all of that. So it's a wonderful time to be in the tire industry. I did want to give, if I could, just a couple of tidbits about TRAC and sort of where we've been and where we're headed. 2020 last year was the 100th anniversary of TRAC, and I can say with confidence, at least in Canada, there aren't many leading trade associations that have that kind of history and pedigree, a century of operations. So I think it speaks volumes, not only to the member companies who past and present have been part of the association, but the leadership, both board and committees, and as well as the staff leadership as well. It was before my time, obviously. We're supposed to have a significant celebration to acknowledge that century. Again, COVID has made us set aside those plans, but nonetheless, the TRAC staff team did put together a beautiful book to celebrate the people, the events, the challenges, the successes over those 100 years. And so if any viewers would like a digital copy, we'd be happy to share that. And just as well, of course, we had a change in leadership with the wonderful Glenn Maidmont retiring. And obviously, it's my pleasure and privilege to serve as the new president and CEO. TRAC continues to provide programs and services to our members, including our twice-yearly winter tire campaigns and spring tire campaigns. The winter campaign focused on the importance of winter tires, using winter tires across Canada, and our spring campaign that just ended. Some public opinion research showing that, not surprisingly, that Canadians have a deep desire and appetite to get out on the road this summer, to drive somewhere, to vacation or visiting family and friends now that COVID restrictions are lifting. And when we probed a little bit about tire care maintenance, specifically tire pressure, we found that Canadians were a little bit woefully ignorant in their knowledge of the importance of tire pressure and care and maintenance of tires. So it's an important service that we provide on behalf of our members, and happy to do it. We look forward to planning for the winter campaign ahead. Great days ahead, working for a great industry, doing great things.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Carol. And as I said, we absolutely look forward to meeting in person as well. And hopefully there can be an actual physical celebration for TRAC's 100th anniversary. It may be 101 anniversary or 102. We don't know, right? But
let's hope.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, Carol, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure, Hugh. Thank you so much for the invite.